Funding is one of the biggest pain points to scale an early stage startup in India.
Whom is it that you're investing in? Is it the idea or is it the founder?
Not the idea, definitely, because I think idea is something that everybody has. You can't say that, okay, this idea is unique to me. Both of you would know this company called Netflix, right?
Yeah.
You would not maybe know that Netflix started out not with streaming.
No, they started as a DVD store.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can you share with us a moment which is the most FAAD moment of your life?
Not coming from this industry at all, not having any godfathers on me, building everything from scratch. First generation entrepreneur in my family. So I think that is something that's the most FAAD moment, like living the dream, living the big Indian dream. I call it that venture capital needs to have an AD before it so that it becomes adventure capital. Right?
Nice one.
It is a great adventure because it teaches you a lot many things. My grandmother also at that point of time asked कि तूने कितने लोगों से पैसे लिए हैं जो तेरे को इतने लोग फ़ोन करते हैं, right? And I used to come home late at the night and dad was like, ये कैसा business है जहाँ पे late night आना होता है? So we say that if you have to become a good VC in India, you have to first become a good HR, right? A good human resource person, because you have to empathize with people, not sympathize. It's high risk, high return.
Venture capital, like if you watch Wolf of Wall Street, it's Stratton Oakmont. Or you've got BlackRock.
They always go by some fancy names. You got into something which is very indigenous.
And very desi.
Very desi. How did this name, the FAAD name, came to your mind, your
It's
venture?
why FAAD. So yet here we are with another episode of Get Set Talk podcast. And as we talk of startups, we talk of ideas, we talk of innovation, there is one thing which powers all of this ecosystem together. One thing which holds all of this investors, startup creators, and then the consumers. It is the venture capital. And also it is the capital which they put in. Now you might ask that when does venture capital come in? What is angel investing? And a lot many questions you might have. And to address those very questions, when it comes to startups, investing, finance, and all the things considered, we have our very own guest here today, Mr. Aditya Arora, sir. Now you might ask, who is he? If you haven't recognized him as of yet. He's the author of the very popular book which is Startups of Bharat, which chronicles the stories of more than 15 odd founders of very popular companies, and he's also the founder of FAAD Capital to cause disruption, I believe, sir. Where did this inspiration about angel investing or venture capital, from where did it come from?
I think in college itself, I had a knack for meeting various entrepreneurs, various founders, just to figure out what they're doing in journey. So I started my journey actually by reading, writing, researching some of these stories and actually putting it out in a nice 400, 500 words article, which spoke about some of their journeys and how they built their own startups. I took almost 100 plus interviews, wrote all of these stories. And I think doing all of these stories kind of helped me to realize and reflect that what entrepreneurship is truly about. And I think once that was done, I wanted to go one step further and basically support them. And I think funding came as one of the natural causes that yes, most of the startups in India require funding. We did a lot of events, almost 47 events in 7 different cities of India. And we found out that funding is one of the biggest pain points to scale an early stage startup in India. And that's how we started, by doing a lot of pitch events where we used to call investors and founders alike. And I think in doing those events, we found out that, okay, yeah, this is something that is truly scalable and truly lies at the core of building a company. And that was the genesis of FAAD.
So this, like the articles which you mentioned, were they published in a college journal or whether you wrote a blog or something?
So these were published on our own portal called FAAD Times, which we used to have back then. And then slowly and steadily they found their way to appear in different startup communities, a lot of mainstream media, newspapers also, a lot of online startup websites also, where these articles kind of came out. So yeah, but it started by us just pushing articles on our own platform and page. Yeah.
So you mentioned that during your initial days, the funding part was really important. You focused on which point so that you got your funding that help you made today at the place where you are right now?
So I think meeting different people from different walks of life, like these were business owners, had their own family businesses also, were kind of entrepreneurs themselves, had some capital to invest in. So I think these were the people we kind of started and collaborated with. They were not only kind of eager to put in capital, but more than eager to help these founders also. And that's where our mission became clear that yes, we want to become a founders first community where like-minded investors basically come in and help these emerging founders. Because especially at an early stage in India, more than funding, you require early stage hands-on support.
Yes.
Right. So if you're providing that support, that mentorship, and that expertise to scale, the multiplication of the money is just the end product. The way to make your returns over that investment is just the end product. So I think yeah, we were good enough to find some like-minded folks early on in our journey who not only supported us as FAAD, but also supported these startups more importantly in their journey. And the startups or early first bets continue to scale and become big in India.
When you're investing in a product, you're investing in a company, whom is it that you're investing in? Is it the idea, or is it the founder, or is it the team of founders?
A bunch of things. So one is not the idea definitely, because I think idea is something that everybody has. Nobody has a patent over an idea. Let's say you have an idea, and I have an idea. You can't say that okay, this idea is unique to me. It might have come across my mind as well, right? So you can't say that okay, I have an idea, that means that I'm successful in life. So I think the execution of the idea is very important, right? What are you able to kind of execute in market? What models are you able to kind of build, and how strongly you are able to solve the problem of your customers. So I think for us, what becomes more important is the founder itself, right? Because the founder is the one driving the shaft. Idea can change with time. Pivots, there's a term called pivots in startups. Pivots happen, right? You have to change your ideas according to market. You have to change your plans, your models. Both of you would know this company called Netflix, right?
Yeah.
But you would not, you would not maybe know that Netflix started out not with streaming.
No, they started as a DVD store.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys are well informed that way. So online DVD platform, right? It was an online DVD platform. Later on, they pivoted multiple times and became a streaming company. But do you know what was their initial idea?
No.
So they were killing piracy, because through online DVD renting, you could not pirate movies, right? Because you were buying it licensed content as from the company, right? There were a lot of piracy sites, right? Which all of us have downloaded movies
Yeah.
from. Netflix was killing just that. And today itself also, their problem still remains the same. They are killing piracy by creating Netflix original content. That's why they call it Netflix originals and Netflix kind of streamed and licensed content. So essentially, see, models can change with time, pivots can happen, change with time, but it's the vision of the founder that remains the same. It's the vision of the problem that remains the same. So you have to basically back that early on in your journey.
How did this name, the FAAD name, came to your mind when you were doing, your
It's
venture?
why FAAD means venture capital. Like if you watch Wolf of Wall Street, it's Stratton Oakmont, or you've got BlackRock.
They always go by some fancy names. They, the people will look up to. You got into something which is very indigenous,
And very desi.
very desi.
Yeah. I think we're Desi people by heart, right? We love India, and I think we want to continue to back Indian founders. That's why my book is also on Bharat, right? First thing first. Second thing is, it's a very youth-centric name, right? So mostly in North India, if you use FAAD as like a college word, right, like a buzzword, FAAD diya, aaj FAAD kaam kara, right? Teacher ne
Paper
literally
kaisa
FAAD
aaya?
kar diya.
FAAD.
You use FAAD in everything, right? So essentially, I think FAAD is more of an emotion than a word, right? Which means something out of the box, awesome. So we wanted to create that company early on, which is something out of the box, something awesome, something which actually creates long-term value. Because we wanted to do something FAAD. So today itself, FAAD is an emotion of backing FAAD founders with FAAD funding to create a FAAD ecosystem. So yeah.
So till date, can you share with us a moment which is the most FAAD moment of your life?
I think the most FAAD moment in my life is when I actually became the CEO just after college, right? And I think that was one of the things that I've really loved as a youngster, because carrying such early on responsibility of not having built, like not coming from this industry at all, not having any godfathers on me, building everything from scratch, first generation entrepreneur in my family. So I think that is something that's the most FAAD movement, like living the dream, living the big Indian dream. We always talk about the big American dream, but I think living the big Indian dream, right, of creating this ecosystem from scratch. I think that is one of the most FAAD moments of my life. And I think second one is when I started doing stand-up comedy in college. I think that was also funny.
So since you mentioned that you are the first generation entrepreneur in your family, you had no godfather. So what was your family's reaction like, knowing that my son is going for this, you know?
And also, like to add with Shoharduda's question, venture capital is not something which is very much in pop culture. Like, you understand कि okay ठीक है ये startup कर रहा है and they are working on tech, कोई दूसरा Google बना रहा है and all of it. But venture capital, so how did you, means basically his question only, so how did you tell them I'm doing something one and I'm doing something which is not
very conventional,
even for startup people?
Yeah, I think I call it that venture capital needs to have an AD before it so that it becomes adventure capital. Right?
Nice one.
It is a great adventure because it teaches you a lot many things. When I started actually, of course, with VC space, firstly, I also did not know the exact meaning of VC. Like, to be very honest, I thought it's very cute or video call. But then I later on realized that yeah, it's venture capital and it's a different kind of financing altogether. So when I started out, of course, as I was learning the meaning, so were my parents. And in fact, my mom used to like always see me as in calling people and asking for money. And she thought I had like a debt owed to a lot of people. Like a lot of people called me and said to me to give money. My grandmother also at that point of time asked कि तूने कितने लोगों से पैसे लिए हैं जो तेरे को इतने लोग फ़ोन करते हैं, right? And I used to come home late at the night and dad was like ये कैसा business है जहाँ पे late night आना होता है, right? So it was I think kind of hilarious, but later on I think yes, I kind of realized that yeah, venture capital is a very different form because it's made up of two words, venture and capital. So capital is one of the aspects which drive VC, but venture creation is the ultimate goal. That with this capital, you are building a company that becomes a venture, like a large scale company, from a startup to a venture, which has like a lot of people working, a lot of revenues coming in. So I think that is the most interesting part about finance. I am a student of finance, and I think the reason I chose VC over any particular industry is because of the ultimate value creation that you can get to see, the gratification. Because not only this aspect of finance is transaction driven, it's a lot more human driven. So we say that if you have to become a good VC in India, you have to first become a good HR, right? A good human resource person, because you have to empathize with people, not sympathize, and eventually figure out. Because everybody has dream, passion in life. Everybody would come to you and pitch. If let's say two of you become VCs in future, I'm pretty sure you want to become one, right? People would come in and pitch to you their ideas in life. You would never be able to differentiate passion between the two because both of them would be equally passionate. It's just about your sense of reading people, your sense of confidence on them, and the gut instinct. I think this is something that kind of creates between the two, the difference between the two.
What is angel investing? How is it different from venture capital? And how do venture capitalists generate money not only for the people who invested in them but also for their firms?
I think this is the most fundamental question when you become a VC. But yeah, I think the first two ones, yeah, definitely. Just kidding. So I think I started, in fact, my content journey by this, right? When I started creating videos on Instagram, my very first video was who are angel investors, and I explained this with a very funny, silly example, basic example. That imagine you're throwing a party, right? A birthday party in your house, right? Now you don't have capital, you are broke. You said, oh bro, I don't have capital, right? 10 of your friends join in and pool together money to give you that capital, right? Those 10 investors of yours become angel investors per se, like, to very dumb it down to a noob question, a noob answer. So 10 people give you money, they have become the angel investors because eventually they are giving money for something, but eventually they are giving money out of love for you, right? because they believe in you, trust in you, and everything. They are called angels because they come into a startup founder when they come into the life of the startup founder when nobody believes in them. They are angels for them, guardian angels or guiding angels for them. Now consider in this similar example, rather than asking 10 people for money, your dad says, why do you have to get debt of 10 people? Let me cut you a straight check of 100 rupees, right? Rather than collecting 10 rupees from 10 people. Now your dad becomes the VC here, right? Because he is now putting in a larger capital with a very specific purpose. He'll ask you that if, let's say, I'm giving you 100 rupees, you have to get good marks in your exam, right? Your friends would never ask you because they're themselves getting bad marks any which ways, right? But your dad might ask you, right? That now you have taken 100 rupees, you have to perform well in examinations and academics. So now he's coming with a straight outcome, with a straight purpose and objective, right? Of an expectation of a return from that investment, technically, even if not financial. So now your dad is the VC here, where he's one investor who's covering all the angels, right? That money and basically giving you long-term kind of value creation. Now in that same example, you are the one, right, who's managing that capital 100 rupees. You say, Dad, I scored well in academics, right? I made in your 100 rupees technically, let's say 200 rupees, because now I'll get a job of 100 rupees again.
Or I got a scholarship of.
I got a scholarship of whatever. So now I have more money at hand. I made you more money. What if I take a small cut from it, right? You become greedy and say, what if I take a small, because you did all the hard work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, if you just return that 100 rupees back or give more returns on it, how would you make money on top of it? So you make money on top of it by two things. One is you ask that for commission, which typically is called the carry fee in venture capital. Again, we'll not go too much into technicals. And second is you said, hey dad, while studying for the examination, 100 rupees was something of course I used, but I invested that money in my examinations also. However, to prepare for the examinations, I had to buy certain books, I had to buy certain pens, I had to buy certain stationery, right? I had to consult like a teacher where I had to give certain fees, right? Now all those were my expenses while actually preparing for the exam. What if I ask you money separate and then basically ask you for these expenses also, right? So in a way, this is not the way to make money, but this is a way to cover your expenses. So you cover your expenses. This is called the management fees, right? In all financial institutions, this is called the management fees because these are given to the management to run the fund operations.
So what are the components technically in a VC? Like let's say in your office, so
Yeah.
someone's giving you 10 crore. So what are the managerial expenses which might happen
Correct.
other than salaries and all?
Yeah, so major one is salaries though, because you need to hire salaries for a team. The second one could be a lot of compliance and legal work for the fund that will happen through. That's another expense. A lot of administrative expenses, travel and everything, because you need to travel a lot for kind of investing in meeting founders and
Serving the market.
serving
Serving
them,
them.
having food at fancy 5-star hotels, right? All those bills, right? Drinking, partying, all that. So I think that gets covered in all of that. Similarly to a company expense, right? A company has funding to cover those expenses. A VC don't get funding, but they basically take money from LPs to cover that. So salaries, legal compliance expenses, some of the softwares you'll need to buy to study, right? So for example, if you invest in stock market, you take use of certain softwares. Similarly in venture capital for deal flow and everything, there are certain softwares. So for that also you need certain kind of fee. But major two heads are compliance and salaries.
So basically, we can say that it's kind of you guys live on brokerage.
As in technically the word is fund managers. And I'll tell you why we hate the word brokerage. Because a broker would come and show you, let's say 10 different houses, and then you have to eventually choose, right? There is no curation, there is no finalizing, there is no thought process. But in a venture capital, it's very, very like you don't go to your people that you have taken money from and show them 10 companies. They don't have the time. They have given you money so that you can multiply that. Otherwise, they would have done it themselves, right? So you have that expertise. So you now curate, new year work, you do all your diligence, you do all your research.
And you stay with the process. It's not
Yeah.
like buying a company, leaving
Yeah,
it. paisa
yeah,
ka-
yeah.
You are
you
fully,
stay with that
totally
process.
involved in the process.
You're totally fully invested in that process. So that's why it's not a brokerage. It's pure asset management, right? That you are basically managing that asset or basically because you'll also be monitoring that asset. Once a broker gets you a house, you don't talk to the broker any which ways, right? If you're, let's say, your water is not coming, your maid is not coming, you can't go to the broker and say, okay, this is so and so is happening, right? So a VC technically manages all of that for the LP so that they can use the technical knowledge, expertise and all that to create those sort of returns. This is a skilled industry. You have to be highly skilled, right? You can't just be lowly skilled and just like invest in 10 companies randomly. You have to match that return, that expectation.
So, is there a pressure on you to basically, your clients can come and say to you, ki, let's say if I've got this 1 crore or 10 crore, if I had even kept it simply in an FD, post office FD, it would have yielded me roughly an interest of 5 to 6% or sometimes even more
Even
than
7
that
to
if
8%.
Correct.
correctly managed, and that would also nearly beat the inflation.
No, I think that's a great question. But if you look at the hindsight, right, and FD does give you 7-8%. That's assured 7-8%.
Yes.
No matter how well do you do, how much capital do you have, you can't get more than 7%. The reason you invest in stock markets also is because you want to generate double the returns. You can't survive your life at 7-8%. It's like beating inflation is just one of thing. But it's not just about inflation. There's a cost of living also, right? That's also rising with time, right? Atta, dal, chawal has become expensive over time, right? So essentially, it's not just inflation, but the cost of living. You now just don't want a motorbike. You want a sexy EV at your place. You want like a Lamborghini convertible, let's say. Everybody has large dreams in life, right? So eventually, I think the cost of living also standards have gone up. So that's why you invest in startups. It's high risk, high return. So eventually, when we raise money from LPs, we say that this can become zero also, right? This has a high propensity to become zero also. This is a high propensity to just give you the capital back after 5 years, which is also technically value destroying. Because if you would have, your question, if you would have invested that money in FD, you would have earned 7%. Versus you gave it to a VC who just returned you capital in 4 years. So eventually you lost that 7%. But that's the risk you take, right? You can't, VCs technically in India give you almost on an average 19 to 20% kind of returns. You look at any other financial instrument, they don't give you, apart from crypto, which is again like a different asset class altogether, right? 20-25% even markets don't give you today, right? So I think that's the risk you take. Higher the risk, higher the reward. Yeah.
If someone wants to join this venture capital or angel investing this world, wants to make a firm on it or deal with all of this, so what will your advice be to him or her?
Be FAAD, but don't be FAAD. As in technically don't be FAAD, but yeah, have that rigor and passion to kind of go ahead and just like look at companies. Keep studying new news, keep analyzing trends and patterns, do courses on stock market, do courses on not stock markets entirely, but courses on fundraising, on investment banking, valuation. There are enough online platforms today where you can access it all by home. Talk to a lot of VCs, go to a lot of events. There are a lot of fellowship programs also that happens with VCs in India. A couple of VCs run it very, very actively, so you can join them as one of the resident fellow, learn the tricks and trips of venture capital, and then eventually maybe also get a job in that same venture capital firm. That also happens. We are also planning to launch something similar like that. Just keep meeting founders, understand the founders' mindset, because your job is investing in founders. So you have to understand their pain points and their mindset as well, and how they basically can grow with your capital. So yeah, just do all of that.
So we are in a generation where Instagram is almost at the top.
Yeah.
We are there, like we want to upload, we want to stay relevant, we want to
Yeah.
do party. So our generation is more like it's into real life rather than the real life.
Yeah, you said our generations included me also. That's a great thing. Fun fact also though, Instagram last year was the most uninstalled app ever on Play Store, but it was also the most installed app. That means that higher people are getting bored of it, but at the same time newer people are getting so excited about it.
So this generation has a tendency to spend a lot. To spend a lot, you need to have a lot.
Correct.
So to have a lot, you need to earn.
Correct.
So we earn at an amount which is, let's say, at a normal rate.
Correct.
But every people wants to spend it at a higher rate.
Correct.
So how do we preserve the money, and in this generation, how do we increase our money?
There's a joke also, right? That I think I use Google Pay so much as if Google is paying for it.
Yeah.
So essentially, I think you need to adjust, you need to prioritize your life goals accordingly, right? If you actually want to kind of party, I think you should know the bank balance with which you are doing at the end of the day, and the goals that you have. Like financial planning should be done. That's why I say financial planning early on is very, very important, because reckless spending will give you short term pleasure, but then if you are planning it finances over long term, you can't do that, right? Because consider, let's say you entirely expend your money on parties and everything, and you want to, let's say, buy a house. How would you be able to pay the EMIs, right? How would you the cost of living that we were talking about is hugely increasing. But I think, yeah, this generation goes after gimmicky things more than actual on the ground things. So I think first is you need to do clear financial planning of your goals, that what all big transactions will happen in your life in the next 3-4 years, and plan for that accordingly. I always say that 100 rupees whenever you get, again, not a pure financial investment advice, but I think 30-40% invest that capital, because that's a long term value creation that's happening. The rest 30% spend, right? Spend also is important. I'm not saying that live life like beggars. The rest 20% save something also for unplanned expenses that might happen, because investment is illiquid also. Sometimes you have a position in stock market, you can't say, okay, I have to pay for the car, I have to square off my position, because you would want to stay invested for long, right? You have money invested in startup, hell, you can't go to the startup and say, give me my money back, right? They've already used that capital. So eventually a lot of these investments take time and patience. So I would say plan for your financial goals accordingly, and plan for bigger transactions in your life. It's very important. And then when you are partying, have that budget. If you have money, go to a 5-star. If you don't have money, house party is always the option.
That, I believe, was the end of a very interesting episode. Got to know about startups, about what drives venture capitalists to actually support the startups, or support the founders rather. Some bit of financial literacy. I wouldn't call it, or any of us wouldn't be calling it, financial advice. So I believe to all of our friends here who are into startups or into financial management, financial literacy, this was an interesting watch. So please like this video, share this video with as many of your friends as possible. Let us know what you liked or didn't like, so that we can improve in the upcoming videos. So with that, I believe we here at Get Set Talk, me, Shohar Dada, then Aditya sir, we take your leave. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.